You hung up on me, man. You didn't hang up on me, but you went to do something, and I called him and started talking about the Bible to him.
Right.
I'll talk to anybody. I love talking about it, dude. I love it.
You're listening to One Man from Ohio, where the Word of God is the only word that matters.
This is the one.
Obama! The following program is intended for mature audiences.
We're on a mission from God.
There was one man from Ohio, and he stood a mighty ground.
One man.
Hey, one man.
One man standing.
Welcome to the One Man Show, where we kill communists.
God gives us free will. The enemy, the devil, doesn't have omnipresence. The devil is trying to use humans, the deceiver, the accuser. Get behind me, Satan. To hell with the devil. What does Satan do? Gets in front of you on our road. Straight to the pit with Satan. Down with Satan in the name of Jesus Christ. Get behind me, Satan.
The work you're doing, is God's work. It is hard work. We're going to make a big push these last few weeks.
Stop!
We're going to make a big push these last few weeks. But as I said, I can talk.
Talk is cheap.
Here in Washington, it's not going to make as much of a difference as if you are out there making the case. The work you're doing, is God's work.
Which God is he talking about?
Be still and know that I am God.
Is it right for the president to essentially be using God to justify his big government programs? Pastor Steve Mays sees a problem here. He's the author of Overwhelmed by God and Not Your Troubles. It's a fascinating read and makes you step back about when you seem immersed in all this stuff. Pastor, very good to have you.
It's so good to be with you, Neil.
What do you make of that line, the president comparing what he's doing essentially to a religious mission, a mission from God?
I think it's absolutely terrible. I think it's taking God's name in vain. I was doing the National Day of Prayer under Bush. I was the last one to be able to stand in the White House and pray. And now we can't even get into the White House and pray, and yet he's invoking God.
The work you're doing, is God's work.
It is the debt being owed the International Monetary Fund and the banks that the banks in Europe and the United States are now calling for a new world order. I'm telling you something. I'm going to be careful saying this because I don't want someone coming to me and saying, who told you and who said this? But there are people who work in Washington, D.C. in the highest levels of our government who are Christians. And there are many of them who now say it appears that the administration in Washington is willfully attempting to bring the economy of the United States down. And people say, why would anybody do it? Can I tell you what the answer is? Henry Kissinger and others, and George Soros and others, want the United States to become the United States of Europe. Europe is a socialist country. It has socialist health care, etc., etc. And to create a new world order, I've got the quotes. I'm not preaching on that tonight. That's why I'm not bringing the quotes out. But I've got the quotes where they have said for the new world order to work, you have to have the United States in it. And as long as the American people love their dollar, as long as they love their Constitution, and as long as they love freedom, they're never going to submit to a European, Canadian type of system that dictates to you and removes your freedoms to tell you that you can't preach a certain way, that you got to run your sermon through the government before you get up and preach the gospel. Come on, talk to me, somebody. And I know that we've got people that think that people in this Tea Party are a bunch of nuts. I've got news for you. They haven't seen the party yet, because I know a lot of people that haven't even joined that's getting ready to, because they love this country too much to let it go down the tubes with people that have an agenda of their own, and they're not concerned about the average person and their needs. That's heavy. I know it's heavy, but you need to hear it. Now, I've saved the heaviest part for last. In the Bible, and I'm going to abbreviate this, but in the Bible it says, there will come a time that to buy or sell, you have to have a mark, a name or number, and it involves the right hand and the forehead. 20 years ago, in common places, you would have never seen this. 10 years ago, some of this you wouldn't see. 5 years ago, some of this you wouldn't see. Bring up number 1. Number 13, I'm sorry. The biometric hand scanner. I went to Disney 2 years ago, put my hand in a scanner, and then the guy slipped my card in there, which was my entrance card. I said, what did you just do? He said, here's what this does. The scanner takes 90 different measurements of the hand, including the thickness of the palm and the surface. It gives the 90 measurement individual numbers that can be stored information and transferred to the card. It doesn't take anything with your fingerprint. He said it just numbers your hand. And he said what happens is those numbers are transferred to the card. So if somebody tries to come in and use your card and get into the park, we have to check their hand. If the hand doesn't match the card, they don't get in. It's called a biometric hand scanner. There are businesses now that have these. So don't miss the point. You have to lay your right hand in it, not your left. Your right. All the scanners have the right hand, and it's interesting that it puts a number on the fingerprints or the lines and the width of the what? Right hand. Now, several years ago, hold off on the second one, Larry, just wait a minute. Several years ago, I was preaching in a neighboring state in the 1990s, and they said, you got to go meet this man. I went and met a man. He is not a Christian, but he was he dealt with satellites. Let me just say that. And he said to me, he says, I can contact the space shuttle right now. I said, you got to be kidding me. He was in his home. He goes to a computer, he does a few things, and he starts talking to the guys who are in the space shuttle. I thought, this is freaky. How are you doing this? He said, well, look at the big antenna in my yard back there. Look at the big dish. And he was very open. He said, oh, do you know what they've got in the space shuttle right now? You know what they're testing? I said, no, what? He said, a chip. I said, what do you mean a chip? He said, it's a chip going to go in your right hand or your forehead. I said, oh, come on. He said, no, I'm serious. He said, you want to talk to him? I said, no, that's okay. I said, what are they doing? He said, well, they're doing some experiments with it. He said, it has a lithium battery in it. And he said, one day it'll be put in your hand, your forehead. You won't need money. You'll just scan your hand, or they'll scan over top of your head. I said, why the head? He said, well, some people don't have hands. I said, well, that's true. I hadn't thought about that. And he said, but anyway, it'll have information on it. And said, you won't have to have a credit card. You won't have to have money. He said, it's going to go to that. And this was 1996. So I always waited for somebody to give me more updated information. So I get a call. I get a call from a preacher friend of mine who is on a plane. He had exited a plane. He said, I've got to call you, Perry. I've got to talk to you. So he called me from Florida. He said, I just got off a plane with a man who is a medical doctor. This medical doctor was coming into a certain city to meet with 3,000 doctors about the new health care chip. And he said there's a health care chip that they've been working on it for several years. Now listen to what I'm going to say. This was May of 2009, and when this man said, yeah, there's going to be a health care chip, they're going to put it right in your hand, right above your forehead, and it said it's going to have all your health care information. He said you're not going to have to do paperwork. You just scan your hand, they do a scan of you. It's got everything on there. It's got a digit number, all your information. He said that's where it's going to go. He said, now we've had this for a while, but we've tested it on people, and some blood types rejected. And the government's had us working on this to make sure that all the blood types, and I think we've got it perfected. He said you will have it inserted at your local hospital. And this was the man's exact quote. This was May of 2009. President Obama is demanding we have it done by the end of the year. Now I want to make a statement, and I can back it up because I've got the proof of it. The reason President Obama pushed health care through, absolutely demanding that it had to go through, was actually not just about caring for people who need health. It was about the health care chip. It is a tracking device. Now listen to me. And they make, the reason I know this, right here in Georgia, a man had a meeting with the company that was doing it, and they said, it's $10 a month. Add up $10 a month times 12 months, that's $120, add up over 300 million Americans who have to have it, and add that up, and they're going to make money off the chip. Now, they originally told me that in 2013 is when they wanted everybody to have it, and they wanted it to have the government-controlled health care, and that's the reason they wanted government-controlled health care, passed the law where everybody had to do it. But I want to tell you something about the state of Georgia. You have a senator. Now, it's not a state senator. It's not a senator in Washington, but you have a state senator I personally met, and thank God, when I preached this in Cartersville, Georgia, said, Perry, I have already gone through the State House to pass a regulation that they cannot insert chips in people in the state of Georgia in their forehead and in their hand. A senator, hey, there is a senator or a congressman from the state of Virginia who has challenged it and is trying to pass it in Virginia. There's someone in Pennsylvania trying to pass it in Pennsylvania. They know it's there, and there are people who are trying to pass legislations to say you will not put a tracking chip of any kind in the right hand or forehead. In fact, one guy that's not a Christian said, this sounds too much to me like something I've heard people talk about in the apocalypse, and I don't want my people being tracked. Now, I'm just telling you something. Did I show that chip yet? Did I show it yet, Larry? It's called the RFID radio frequency tag implant, and it has a lithium battery in it. The new ones are smaller than the size of a grain of rice, and so I'm just trying to share with you that this is not second or third hand information. I've got this directly from people who know about this, and this is why, folks, this is why they shoved health care through. It wasn't just about all these other things. All the other stuff is side stuff. This is a money maker for them and for the insurance companies and for whoever's involved with this. And so thank the Lord. I'm going to say thank the Lord for people who are making a stand. Now I will tell you this. See, there it is implanted in somebody's right hand. See right there, right in this area here. And it feels like a little bump. Listen. I will say this publicly. I'm not afraid to say this publicly. You want to give me a card with my name and a chip on the back, I'm fine with that because I have credit cards, bank cards anyway. But I refuse to put something in my right hand and my forehead that is comparable to Revelation 19. I'm not going to do it.
Chapter 13. And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power, and his seat, and great authority. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed. And all the world wondered after the beast. And they worshipped the dragon which gave power unto the beast. And they worshipped the beast, saying, Who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name, and his tabernacle, and them that dwell in heaven. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints, and to overcome them, and power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. All that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. If any man have an ear, let him hear. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. And he exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast,